Look at that. Prepared, guys. We're prepared.
PogChamp.
All right, let me send out a quick tweet. All right, so what are we going over today? We're basically going to talk a little bit about the EU GCD. What maybe is going to happen in the NA GCD. Talk about WoW esports as a whole. Um, and what was the other thing? Maybe you could talk about a little bit of what went down in the summit that you are allowed to talk about.
Yeah,
Obviously,
what
some
well, the
stuff's
thing is,
off
yeah, I
limits.
wanted to just tell people what it was because a lot of people thought it was something that it wasn't. So just like some clarification. It was also just really cool to talk to those guys and like get an idea of what they think of PvP and some of the changes they want made. Not when I say they, I don't mean Blizzard. I mean like people like Bajira and Swifty and Cartoons and Super Tees and stuff. All the people that are there as are you. Also, I think it'd be cool if we talked about some of the teams that are already signed up for the NAGCD. And let's see what comps they're going to be running, and because I do think it's interesting. Some teams we've never seen before are going to be playing together, and yeah, there's some teams I think will do really well.
Yeah, definitely. I actually don't know any of the teams that are signing up right now. I need to myself sign up, but there's like some teams that have been really successful on the ladder, this expansion that I didn't even like know existed. For example, Chun Li. I don't even know who that was until this expansion, and I got his name imprinted in my butt now because he literally kicks it every time I face him arena. So, there's definitely some. I think he actually won the last NAGCD if I remember correctly, right? Him, Thugonomics, and Nuvos.
You might be right about that.
I think they won the last NA tournament. So there's definitely a lot of top players who maybe don't have like those big names out there that are probably going to be pretty successful in this tournament coming up that we definitely want to talk about. So what do you want to start off with first? You want to talk about maybe the summit a little bit, and then we'll kind of move into the other stuff.
Sure. So it wasn't actually like a PvP summit or anything like that. There were just some streamers and YouTubers got invited down to just kind of hang out, meet some people, get a tour of the campus. I mean, as a result, obviously, all us PvP players were together, so that was super nice, and we had a chance to sort of hang out and discuss some things about what we thought would be good for WoW overall, just for everyone, not just like the top echelon. Because I think a lot of the time when we talk about like changes we want made in WoW, but a lot of time we talk about stuff from like the perspective of like a very, very high rated player, which is good, but at the same time, there's also those like mid tier people and bottom tier people that I think could have a better experience in WoW PvP for sure.
So basically, just trying to make WoW better for everyone. So yeah, a lot of people just thought it was like just a straight PvP summit. You guys were going
Nah.
there. You're gonna do balancing, and they
Yeah,
expected
we're
like big
gonna do
changes
balance.
when they came home.
Yeah, yeah.
But I guess you can't really talk about anything that was like stated there or anything, right? Like in the
No,
actual
I
like.
mean, I could talk about them. These aren't my ideas specifically, but these are some of the things we talked about of the people that were included. And this is just like conversations we had, amongst ourselves of stuff that we thought would be cool, stuff that they could easily add to the game, or not easily add to the game, that they could add to the game that would make it a little bit better. So, like one of the big things we thought would be really cool for WoW PvP. I don't know if you played Warcraft 3 back in the day, but in Warcraft 3, I think it was on the weekends or a couple times a week they had these like Blizzard run online tournaments. So just in like the top right hand corner of the screen, you could be like sign up for this 1v1 Night Elf tournament or like this 3v3 random tournament or something like that. Just a random tournament that was like really fun and easy to sign up for. It was totally self run, and all you would have to do is sign up. If you won, then you could sign up for the next round in like an hour. And it would just keep going, and keep going all weekend. And it was just like an easy little tournament, fun little thing to do with your friends or by yourself. And I think something like that in WoW could be really cool too for people to sort of take a break from like the ladder grinding and have a time where everyone can log on and maybe claim some like really cool rewards or just get some games in. I think
Yeah,
it'd be cool.
that sounds pretty cool. Was there any incentives back then for Warcraft 3? Like, was there any prizes or anything, or?
I think you had like an icon. I think that was really just it. Like you would get different icons for like 25 orc wins or 50 orc wins or 100 orc wins, 250 orc wins, and night elf and human and undead. And then there's also just like I think there was tournament win icons. I could be wrong. I don't actually remember what the rewards were, but I'm sure it wouldn't be that hard to implement something like in WoW, like a unique title or something
Yeah,
like reigning champion, and then at the end of the week you'd lose it.
that would actually be pretty cool. I played Warcraft 3 like a while ago, but I always did just the campaign and stuff. I never actually did anything like that. That sounds pretty cool. Just trying to like give players like more incentive to keep playing and stuff. I think little rewards like that go a long way. Like just the little title or the pet that they had for the European regionals, I felt like viewers were at an all-time high just because it gave players that weren't PvPers incentive to tune in, and then if they enjoyed it and they already like claimed their prize, they stayed, tuned in. So I mean that does sound pretty cool.
Yeah, I think one of the other things we thought would be kind of neat is like kind of incremental rewards because right now it doesn't. I mean, it doesn't really feel that good. Sure, you get the random gear, and you get some honor for like queuing PvP, but I thought and we thought that like back in the day when you like hit 1750 and that like unlocked your gloves, and it doesn't necessarily have to be like a gear or an item level thing, but just like little incremental rewards that make people want to go from 1500 to 1650 and 1650 to 1800 and 1800 to 1950. Little jumps where people that are that rating can sort of group together and try to push and get better at collectively, I think would be really cool and a good incentive for people to actually want to try and push rating.
Yeah, I remember back in the day, like getting your weapon or getting your shoulders were just like these super prestigious things. Like you're like, oh my gosh, this guy has shoulders. That was 2200. That mean he was like super sick. I understand that Blizzard doesn't want to like not allow the players that aren't at that level to like receive the rewards. Maybe there's something they could do towards like the end of the season where maybe the last week you can get all the gear you want. Maybe they just remove the restrictions or whatever. But I think those incentives are actually really awesome for PvPers because that's the reason I got into PvP. I wanted my weapon. I was a PvEer and I wanted my weapon to be more successful in PvE, and that's actually what brought me into PvP. If I could have just bought it, who knows, man? I wouldn't be 0-4 today, so it could be a whole different story. Um,
Yeah.
do you like the new gearing system now better than the gearing system like back then? Like where it's just random
Uh,
gear?
I think it's okay. I think it could be done better. Like I personally think that it should be like sure you get random pieces of gear, but at some point like at least for like the elite set and stuff like that, because that is like one of the big incentives right now is people want the elite set. I know most people don't even use it, but it would be cool if like you slowly unlocked the elite set instead of it just being random, even if it is purely cosmetic. Like that would be nice. They could
Yeah.
do other cosmetic rewards too, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I kind of agree. The gearing to me isn't exciting anymore. I feel like it was an interesting idea, but I feel like it's something that didn't quite hit the mark. Maybe it could be done like a little bit differently, but you know, it's nice that you could get into the game and you don't have to worry about that gear difference, even though it still matters a little bit.
It's really yeah it's really really interesting because I was talking to Bajira specifically about this. He plays a warrior and he likes going in battlegrounds and like smashing people, and that's super fun, right? Like
Hmm.
going into a BG and being like way out gearing someone and just like destroying like 1v4. So on the one hand, like having gear that way where someone is like super undergeared and a noob and you're just like this god owner with a super high item level that just one shots them, like that's really fun as an experience. But then at the same time, it's like kind of annoying when you're undergeared and you feel like you can't compete. So there's like these uh, two sides of the spectrum that there's positives and negatives for both. And it makes
Right.
it difficult. Like I feel like no matter what you do, someone is going to be unhappy.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. It just kind of feels like to me now, though, instead of having the gear barrier, it's just the honor talents and the artifact traits. Like I've been gearing up my enhancement shaman on EU, and obviously I do my world quests and stuff as enhancement, but all my artifact power is going into my resto weapon. I'm literally running around the world with 1 million hit points, and I see people with 4 million hit points, and
Yeah.
I hit like a noodle. So it feels like to me that it's the same exact thing almost, except it's just built into a different situation. So I don't
Yeah.
know.
It's another one of those interesting problems too, because it's like I'm sure you like having alts. Like you're a tournament player, you're a healer, you're a multi-classer, so you want to have a priest, you want to have a druid, a paladin, you want to have everything, right? A shaman.
Mhm.
Um, and it's annoying for you because you have to get all these honor talents to compete. So that's annoying. But then just like so many players complain about that, and at the same time they're like, "Man, make WoW hard again! Like it's so casual now." Like in WoD, that's what they were complaining about. Like there's nothing to do. I just log in and sit in my garrison all day. And then when there's finally stuff to do, people complain about that too. So it's another one of those issues where it's like there's issues with both sides, and it's just weird. I don't know what I like more. I honestly personally do like having something to do, and it does feel good that I can work towards like making my character more powerful. And I have my mage and my monk, so I don't have a whole bunch of alts, and it seems manageable. I also play WoW as a full-time job, so it makes it a little bit easier for me. But I can definitely see the frustration for someone who has like 3, 4 characters and has to grind that out.
Yeah, what's funny is I'm actually one of those people where I want WoW to be a grind, and I'm gonna complain about the grind while I want it to be there. I think one thing that's nice about like the catch-up system in this expansion is in previous expansions you were limited to how much you could catch up per week. Was the conquest points. You can
Mhm.
get one or two pieces of gear per week, and then you're kind of capped. You got to wait, a month or two. In this expansion, if you want full honor and you want full artifact power and you grind it as hard as you can, you're gonna get it 4 times faster than me because you're putting the time into it. So it's kind of like, it's kind of like it is rewarding the more hardcore players that actually like put the time into it. So it's definitely some positive, some negative, I guess. And I mean, truthfully, in this expansion, the catch up is better than any other expansion, right? Like even though the
Yeah.
honor grind sucks and the artifact power grind sucks, it's way better than waiting 3 months to not be a full season behind in gear.
Doesn't it feel like they're continuously making upgrades to that too? Like I don't
Right.
know,
Yep.
what are they? They're doing something in 7.2. So what is it? I forget what they're doing. They're
They're,
making something
they're
easier
cutting
for
the honor grind
generals.
in half. The first prestige level.
Oh yeah, so the first
So
prestige
half
level is
is
half. Yeah,
yep. And
that's just another one of those things. And then they made it so you get like artifact knowledge 20 or
yep.
something like that. With
Well,
if you have an alt, you can spend wood on it or whatever the
right,
resources.
yeah, yeah. It's still a little brutal if like it's your first character, like my European account. I had to do 500 resources per level. That only went up to 15, so I had to like go out in the world, do world quests and stuff. But um, it's still got to be better than it was in any other expansion. It has to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah, so I guess that's one of the things we discussed. Another thing was like dueling. Like I think we can all agree that dueling right now is pretty horrendous with the way just like world PvP is, and when you duel, you don't go into like there's this weird thing right now where world PvP is separate from like instance PvP, and it's just like completely unbalanced, and all your legendaries work, and it just like kind of took away the fun. Because I know for me in World of Warcraft, like when I first started, and a lot of people like I got into PvP by dueling, just like going into Durotar and smashing people and losing to someone and getting really mad and wanting to get better and like beating them and practicing them and like that was what was fun to me. So like some sort of like not really a solo queue, but even if you could just like war game someone and like go into like Ring of Valor or something like that would be I think something that they could implement really easily that yeah a lot of people would enjoy. And I know myself as a streamer, if I could just war game someone and duel them with like a full arena template, like that would be really cool.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think like 1v1 situations where like that, maybe like a dueling zone or something that after every single duel your cooldowns reset and maybe there's like
Yeah.
line of sight and stuff like that. I think it would go a long way. I also think a big problem with the system now is a lot of people don't understand how the system works. Why am I so powerful in this duel, but I go into arena and I'm doing half the damage? I don't understand. A lot of people don't know that that stat template exists. It's almost like hidden in a way.
Yeah, and in the previous expansion, I used to tell people like, "Oh, how do you get better?" I'd be like, WoW is such a game where you need knowledge. You need to know what other classes are doing, and a good way to learn that is to duel them. Like, that's actually why I made a Windwalker monk. I remember in the Mists of Pandaria beta, I was dueling against a monk, and I was just getting wrecked over and over, and I had no idea what any ability was. So I was just like, I'm gonna make one, and I'm gonna learn it. And then obviously I fell in love with the class, but dueling was what got me to the point where I understood how these classes worked, how I could kite them, how I could burst them, what cooldowns they had, what do they look like. It's a very manageable way for me to learn about every class. But now it's just like it doesn't apply, like you said. It's just so much different in
Mm.
PvP or like in instance PvP and non-instance PvP. It's weird.
Yeah, it's got to be really confusing for new players, and it's also like really just frustrating in general. Like dueling isn't even worth it anymore. The game is 1,000 times different. Assassination rogues have 40% more agility. Like they press garrote and you just bleed out. It's so strange.
Yeah,
Yeah.
another kind of like way more complicated thing we thought I was interested in hear your thoughts on this is how like in games like Overwatch or any game, Counter Strike and Overwatch, you can like play against bots. Like imagine like you could queue up like a 3v3 game and you had like a bot healer. You could choose whatever bot you wanted. You want to play RMP, you're a mage and you want to play RMP. You have like a bot rogue and a bot priest on your team that like did some stuff, and then you could set up like different teams to play against just to like kind of learn what the other classes are doing before you get into rated. I mean, obviously that's really I feel like that would be really hard for Blizzard to actually implement, but it would be a cool system to learn because a lot of games have that, and I know myself I take advantage of that a lot when just like learning or trying out something new.
I think that would be probably so hard to
It would be
create.
pretty much impossible, but it would be
Yeah, it
cool.
would be so difficult. My thoughts on it, like if it actually could
Yeah.
be done, it would be awesome because a lot of healers, imagine if they were facing a mage team and they kept getting polyed like a bot mage, they would learn how to position a little bit better against that, but
Yeah.
it feels to me that it seems like a cool idea on paper, but I don't see it.
It's funny. It's like on the one hand, it seems really hard, but on the other, it's like there's already so much like botting that's gone on in the past. It's like people are already making these things, you know?
Yeah. I think the hardest part would be, I mean, people probably like people still bought BGs and stuff, but you could spot them a mile away, you know?
Yeah. It's like it's pretty easy. It's the same
Yeah, it
pattern.
would it would definitely be really hard to have a fully functioning character with strong movements and, like
The dream.
CCing and
The dream.
interrupting and stuff like that. Um, I mean, they kind of have stuff similar to that in what's it called? I don't know if you ever did the what are those things called? I used to do them all the time where you're in a group with like four people. There's the
Oh,
tank one, the healer one, and the
yeah.
DPS one. I have the proven healer.
The
What were
proving
those
grounds or
called?
whatever.
Proving
Proving
grounds,
grounds.
yeah. So they actually have something similar to that in Proving Grounds where like you have a dedicated tank and he runs at the ads and you have people with interrupts and stuff. I don't know if they could do something similar to that, but I think people could
Yeah.
definitely learn from something like that, but I think it
Yeah,
would be
think
really
about it, like
hard.
I could just imagine like like a mage challenge and it would like go up like kite this guy so he can never hit you and it's like a warrior running
That's
after you and stuff or like you have two people on you now you have to kite both of them or like keep this healer sheep while you burst someone down like little things like that just so people kind of learn their roles would be really important.
that as opposed to an actual like fully functioning arena
Yeah, yeah,
game is
yeah.
actually
That's a
a
lot more
much
reasonable.
better idea. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
actually a really really cool idea. Almost in a sense where like some people like still backpedal and stuff. It would put people in a situation where it's like, okay, if you're a hunter, try and shoot this guy and don't get hit. And if you backpedal, you're moving too slow, you're gonna get hit. But if you're strafing and you're moving perfectly, it would help you execute your movement patterns a lot better. I think
Yeah.
something like that would actually be really awesome.
Another thing that'd be hard to do, but yeah, it would be really, really cool.
Hmm.
We just talked about little things like that. It wasn't anything super serious, but yeah, there's definitely a lot of ideas for little ways to make WoW a little bit more enjoyable.
Accessible.
Because the thing is, like WoW, I like WoW. Like queuing 3v3 during like prime time, like there's no issues with that. It's just like there's not too much to do in terms of PvP during the day for like arena players specifically. I queue a lot of skirmishes. Like I think I queue more skirmishes than anyone, like an absurd amount. I know
I don't ever.
you was it you that was saying like no I think it was Snuts when I was seeing he's like yeah man sometimes I tune into your stream it's like hey like I wonder what Ben's up to oh look he's queuing skirms again I queue like 200 a day it's I don't know it's just like I because it's a good way to practice it's like queuing quick match or like death match for what I do in Counter-Strike that's what I used to do in CS every single morning I'd wake up and I'd DM for like 2 hours before I even touched like ESEA scrims or anything like that
Right. Right.
so good way to warm up.
Yeah, I think the game like the entry level for like PvPers is so high now. You know what I mean? Something like this to like kind of give people like walkthroughs, like almost like scenarios of like what PvP is going to be like. It's so hard for a new player to break in that some of this stuff might actually just be necessary at this point if WoW is ever going to grow into like an esport. But yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, we can kind of move on from there. I think the next thing we kind of want to talk about was the EU GCD, and just because I think that tournament happened right after some of the balance changes came in.
Yep.
I didn't.
And
I didn't actually get a chance to watch it, but you kind of filled me in on some of the comps that did well. Like, what were your thoughts on it?
well, I mean, let's talk about the patch a little bit. Like what's changed, like how the meta changed. Basically, it went from all Rogue Mage X to just so much variance in the comps. It's unbelievable. Ret Boomkin, Turbo Cleave's back, Rogue Mage is still powerful, Demon Hunter Demo Warlock, Destro Warlocks are back. It just feels like I saw Boomkin Mage in the tournament. It just feels like there's so many comps now that it almost like doesn't feel like rock, paper, scissors. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, like one comp's still going to beat another, but there's so many comps that it almost feels like hard to judge and stuff. I think Warrior Mage Druid ended up winning it. Some people are actually saying that Warrior Mage is the best comp of the game. He played Fury, he played Arms. The Mage played Fire, shockingly enough. They beat Rogue Mage, they beat Feral Mage. I think they beat Destro Boomkin, which was pretty crazy. I think a lot of people think Destro Boomkin is like a powerhouse comp right now. A lot of people think Destro is really overpowered. I was actually going to ask you what your thoughts on, like, have you played much of this patch?
I
Uh,
have, yeah. I played quite a bit.
what do you think are the most overpowered or the like overperforming specs right now in Arena? Because the patch feels fairly balanced. It feels like the ladder's a lot more active. It feels like players are way more interested. It's not just like getting trained down by an assassination rogue. But there's definitely a couple overperforming specs in my opinion. Kind of curious to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was actually thinking about this the other day. Someone asked me, like, does every class have a top tier comp? And I thought about it and I went through and I was like, yeah, pretty much every single class has a comp that's like easily capable of rank 1 that could do pretty much anything, super well rounded, has a chance to win in most situations. So I mean, in terms of balance, I think this patch kind of hit on the head. Hit the nail on the head is the expression, I think. But yeah, I think for me, some of the specs that I don't like fighting, I don't know how good they are overall, but like Moonkin, the amount of damage they do seems really, really absurd to me. Another one that is kind of scary is Demonology Warlocks. I think they're really, really strong. But the thing is, like, I don't always necessarily play the top tier comps, so it's hard for me to really get a judgment. People are probably like, "Oh, those comps suck." Blah, blah, blah. Another one, like you said, Warrior Mage. I had a chance to play that today. It just seems like it has so much defensive utility. It's so hard to kill, and you also just do such good consistent damage that's pretty much unstoppable. I think that's one of the reasons why that mage is probably playing Fire, is just because it's so consistent, so much damage. You still have the good CC. You're so hard to kill. Arms Warrior's utility is off the charts. It's ridiculous. I mean, it was a really good spec. They got the damage back, so not only do they have the utility now, but they also have some additional damage. So Arms Warrior seems really, really strong, especially when paired with that mage.
Yeah. Any other specs of mine?
I don't know. What other specs? I think those are the ones that annoy me the most. Like, I really hate fighting Moonkins. I don't know what it is. I just feel like I'm just dead the whole game. It's really hard to avoid their damage. Anytime I want to retreat, it's like one of the few wizard comps. You know what it reminds me of is like Fire Mages. Like when Fire Mages were super overpowered with the Flame Strike build, that's how Boomkins like feel to me. Like anytime you want to pull away, anytime you're in the open, you're dead, and anytime you want to pull away, you're dead. Like Starfall is just on the ground, constantly killing you. It's brutal.
It definitely seems like when you retreat from a Moonkin, you stack up and you like inevitably lose even more. You know,
it's like worse to run away.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I agree with everything that you said. Actually, I think Starfall is a problem. I think Demo Warlocks. Number one, they probably take too little damage. The Soul Link is insane. Felguard's pretty insane. Or the what's it called? The big Felguard type thing.
What is it? I always mess it up. I call him Legion Commander. That's not what he's called. He's called.
I don't even know. Fellord? No, it's not Fellord.
We all know. The guy swings his axe and.
Is it Fellord? I think it actually might be Fellord. Either way, you guys, yeah, you know what I'm talking about. I think that's pretty powerful. A lot of strategies with that Fellord is to just stun someone in it, Ursock in it, grip in it, and you constantly get cleaved down by that thing. And it's just like a powerhouse. It's also really good defensively, just boxing people out. So I think that's pretty good. What other specs did you say here?
I thought Arms Warrior is like really good. That combo, like mage. Yeah. I think Turbo's another comp that I thought seems really crazy. Absurd damage right now.
I just think it's impossible to balance Bloodlust in Arena. Bloodlust being back in Arena, every time that goes up, like someone could just die 100-0. Arms Warrior to me are actually not really on my radar. I think Warrior Mage is really good. Maybe they do have too much defensive utility. They have Disarm, they have Duel, the CC reduction banner, they have Intimidating Shout. I know Melee really hate dealing that Disarm. Something that's more on my radar is Fell Fissure. I feel like playing against a Destro Warlock, Havoc up 100% of the time. You kick Incinerate. There's 2 Fell Fissures down. There's 4 Fell Fissures down. There's 6 down. It just feels like you can't ever get away from them. If you're not always constantly moving, and if you're a caster and you have to heal, or you have to cast to do DPS, it feels like you're just slowly falling behind. It's just a pretty crazy amount of damage. And then in general, the double spell lock for both Destro and UA, obviously a huge problem. And an expansion that's already so tough for healers to deal with, having that double lockout back to back. And then Metamorphosis from Demon Hunters. Every time you see that, it just feels like someone could just evaporate right out of their shoes. Yeah. So the cooldown stacking from Demon Hunter seems crazy. It's Chaos Blades, which is like 25% damage reduction. Metamorphosis, that's more, or not damage reduction, that's damage. Metamorphosis is increased damage. Nemesis is increased damage. All those stacking together is just like absolutely absurd. So I feel like meta maybe is on maybe too short of a cooldown at 2 minutes. Maybe it would be better at 3 or something. That was something that was changed this patch, but I think that might be it though. What do you think is the best healer right now, just in the meta?
I think, I don't know. That's another really good question, because I feel like Druids are really strong, Shaman are really strong, Paladins are really strong. Like priests are good. I feel like every
Monks
single healer, every healer has a comp and like a role that it's weird. It doesn't feel like it's been like that in a long time.
I agree.
I never queue arena and I see like a certain healer and I'm like, oh well, this is a free win, which is something that
Hmm.
has happened in the past. You know,
Yep.
like if I had a certain healer, like, well, they're just going to be CC'd all game and not be able to do anything. Like that's great.
Uh-huh.
I mean, yeah, a lot of the specs are just really, I guess, well done. And it actually, I don't think there's one healer that particularly stands out for me. Like, what about you? I mean, you're the one that plays
I
them
think
all.
druids are probably consistently the best healer. I think you could
Mhm.
probably plop them in any comp, and they have the best healing throughput. They have the best CC. They probably have the best defensive cooldowns. Maybe not the best defensive cooldowns, but Iron Bark's so strong. Overgrowth is like, you know, in NS or whatever. But I feel like in general, it it feels like any healer can win games. You know, every healer has a comp where they can go in there, they can be powerful, and they can be successful. So I feel like the meta right now is really crazy. Uh, it definitely feels like there's a large variety.
As like a, I mean, I'm not going to be competing in this North American GCD. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. But how is it for you, as someone who like doesn't even know what the meta is? Like, how do you practice? What healers do you like? How do you know what healers to play? Do you just kind of play everything? Like, are you going to dedicate yourself to like maybe one or two of them? Are you still trying to figure it out?
I'm
Because that must be
probably,
really annoying. Like,
I wouldn't say annoying. I think I'm probably just gonna play the ones that mesh like best with our comps. So I think me, Snuts, Ven, or excuse me, me, Snuts, Bean, and Smexer are gonna sign up for this, which
mm,
gives us Demo, Demon Hunter, which means I probably need to learn Monk or Druid. I'll probably be more successful with the Monk. It could actually be decent with Shaman, something that we gotta test, but that's a really powerful comp. We have Destro Boomy, which is great with Resto Shaman.
yeah,
Um, what else? I think we had a third. I think Shadow Priest Boomy, which is good with the rest of Shaman. But we have some pretty tier one comps that are like really successful in the meta. I'm probably not going to spread myself too thin because I don't want to, I guess, not be that great at any of them. I'd rather be good at one or two than average at four or
yeah.
five. So it's tough to play a bunch of them, but yeah, the meta doesn't feel fully established to me. You definitely know what the strong comps are, but there's probably stuff out there that can beat it. Like I haven't seen this comp once the entire expansion, and yesterday I played against a BM Hunter Demo Warlock, and it felt super super strong. And I actually watched them play into Mez, who plays Demo Demon Hunter, and they beat that too. So to see them beat like two tier one comps, I was playing Destro Boomy, and then they beat Demo Demon Hunter. To see that kind of just come out of nowhere and beat two tier one comps back to back, obviously means there's more comps like on the rise. There's a lot of stuff that could be done with this patch or whatever. So
Yeah, it's weird because a lot of time people will be like, "Oh man, like this comp is just so overpowered," and a lot of the time it's a rogue mage, and maybe it was rogue mage before these changes came in. I know rogue mage is still really strong, but there's always like this one comp that people think is just so unbeatable and can never win, and then something always comes up out of nowhere that has a chance against it, ends up beating it. Like the RMD doesn't know what to do, or the RMP doesn't know what to do. As an example, like Turbo, everyone thought RMD was the best comp, and then somehow, some way, some Turbo learned how to beat it, practiced, and took it out. So it's cool in this like ever evolving meta. And I think that's what makes like watching WoW tournaments so fun is when you don't know exactly what's going to happen. People do have to make hard choices and play interesting, unique comps and take chances. Like to me, that's where like a lot of the fun for WoW PvP comes in.
yeah, it's funny too because everyone thought RMD was for sure gonna win that BlizzCon. Everyone thought RM Palo was gonna for sure win the last BlizzCon.
I know. That's another one that's crazy.
I guess the thing for me is that Rogue Mage always has a target on his back. You know, like everyone thinks that's the comp that they have to beat to win the tournament. So that's probably why people try and get so much practice against it.
Well,
But
it's because it's one of those comps so many teams can just fall back on.
mm,
It's just the way those two classes synergize together. Rogue Mage typically is always just so good. So the teams that can just play it expansion after expansion after expansion, sort of rely on that, have that synergy for years and years and years, they always seem to do well, especially when the comp is really strong. So when that isn't good, it's going to be interesting to see if Rogue Mage isn't the best anymore, how some of these Rogue Mage teams kind of adapt, what comps they're going to be playing instead. I think even in the EU GCD, didn't we see? You're telling me Waz ended up multi-classing a whole bunch. He
yep.
wasn't really playing the rogue that much.
Yeah, they definitely strayed from Rogue Mage quite a bit. We saw Boomkin Mage. I think we saw Feral Mage. I think that might have been it, but yeah, it definitely didn't feel like Rogue Mage could just get through the tournament, no questions asked, and they definitely got stopped quite a bit and had to switch up the comps and even ended up getting beaten ultimately. So
Yeah.
Still
No, cool.
powerful. It's like it's not like it's a bad comp. It just doesn't beat everything anymore. So
Yeah, and I think that's pretty good. I think
agreed.
that's pretty healthy for the game, especially as
Yeah,
someone
yeah,
that doesn't play Rogue Mage all the time.
yeah.
Well, interestingly enough, that was the comp I played the most. I was like the first RMD player in tournaments.
You
That
were
was like our comp. So
you were a hipster though. You played it when it was bad. Like Druids had
yeah,
no
I played it. It
dispel.
was a shitty comp.
That's actually why Soda ended up re-rolling Priest. If you guys didn't know this a long time ago, Soda was a Rest of Druid main, and then he started rolling Priest and Wrath because, Druid with no dispel, you would just face other rogue mages and you would just sit in sheeps all day long. So it's pretty
Yeah,
funny.
people don't realize this either. Tournaments back in the day were really strange because gear would just stay outdated on the tournament realms forever. So all of the Burning Crusade tournaments were done in season 2 gear.
Yep.
Even when it was season 4 and like on live, a certain comp would work. So on live in season 4 as Rogue Mage Druid, we could beat a lot of stuff. We could beat WLD. We had a chance against a lot of stuff. We had a lot of gearing options, but all tournaments were done in season 2 where you didn't have the offensive stats to push through a lot of the defenses coming in on this Warlock and these Warriors. And oddly enough, like the balance changes we're going through, like a Warlock needed to survive a Rogue Mage killing him in season 4 gear. There's a lot more stats, you had a lot more agility, a lot more intellect, a lot more damage overall. So they would make these changes made for season 4 gear, and then it would affect these players in season 2 gear, making them even more powerful, even harder to kill. And it was like that for so long in World of Warcraft. It was really frustrating.
I actually didn't play in tournaments in at 70, but that makes a lot of sense because they probably had to balance stuff around like double 4 piece and like crazy PV gear, just like reduce damage and stuff. I know in Wrath, it was like the season 5 gear for a while. I think it was actually season
Yeah.
7, and the championship I won in IAM, it was in season 5 gear. So in season 7 is what we practice in, and we went there in season 5 gear. And I remember one of the teams complaining that there wasn't even all the glyphs. So there was a new glyph that was added that made corruption tick faster based off haste. And I remember Glix, the Warlock, was like, "This is ridiculous. Like, this is on live. Like, this needs to be on the tournament realm." And they patched it in. And if that glyph didn't get added, we wouldn't have won. Isn't that funny? Or it was
Yeah.
something with UA or corruption ticking based off haste, which was like, insane for RLS because it was Bloodlust. You had so much haste, and if that glyph didn't get added in, because Azale didn't say anything about it, he didn't care. But yeah, if Glix didn't complain about that, we absolutely wouldn't have won that tournament, which is really funny because it just like wasn't fully updated. And eventually they started keeping it updated. I think the next global championship was done in the full season's gear, but that was like almost even worse in a sense because the PvE gear was just absolutely ridiculous. So
Yeah, like a perfect example of that was when we fought Beastcleave, like the famous Down Goes Venruki meme where I just died instantly. Like the reason we thought that comp was good is because we played it like 3 seasons ahead against them, and the gear had more stamina and you had more damage, so you were a little bit more tanky and you also had a lot more offensive throughput to kill during those CC chains. Whereas on the tournament realms, you didn't have those stats, so it was like you either choose no resilience, no stamina, and you die instantly to try to do enough damage, or you don't do enough damage and you can tank, but you can never win because you're just this tank that does no damage. So you have to make that choice, and we ended up just losing instantly. When they actually updated the gear, we ended up beating them 3-0 in a series. So in the old gear, they 3-0'd us. In the new gear, we 3-0'd them, and it was just like gearing mattered so much, and it just was something that wasn't changed. So all you new age WoW players, you don't have to go through that BS anymore.
I kind of miss it though, to be honest. I feel like the gearing system and the old school like I don't know, like glyphing and gemming and talent system definitely allowed like the veteran tournament players to be so far ahead. I remember like playing, Stam sets versus Rogue Mage and playing like Stam specs and stuff like that. And I actually remember Collective, who was like my shaman idol, came up to me and said, "How do you have so much health?" Like he didn't understand why I had thousands more health than him. And I'm just like, I showed him everything. I wasn't trying to hide it, but it was just cool to see like there was like a metagame just in gearing almost. And if you overcommitted too defensively, you might not have enough throughput or enough offense and stuff like that. So I kind of miss it a little bit. It's less frustrating to set up on the TR these days, that's for sure. But
It was really fun to feel like you could make your character unique.
Yeah.
It was really cool. I remember there's been tournaments where you've actually like helped us with gearing and stuff, which was nice. Helped us in some games.
I don't remember that. Oh, was it I remember the double Draenei thing. That was
Yeah, the
that
double
was my theory
Draenei.
crafting.
and resilience, and like you got me to put in a lot of resilience and stuff like that. It helped a lot. And
Yeah,
then I ended up carrying through with that resilience all the way to BlizzCon, and no one else knew about it.
sad boys.
Yeah, that's another perfect example. The BlizzCon I won in 2012, no one knew that resilience was super duper overpowered. The more you stacked it, the better it got. So there was like no diminishing returns on it, and it was super overpowered. The difference between a mage fully stacking resilience and fully stacking offense was like 20% damage reduction or something like that. And if one mage was full resilience and the other mage was full intellect, the mage with full resilience would actually do more damage to the mage gemming full intellect. So there's no reason not to
It
go
was
full
PvP
resilience.
power. No one understood like how powerful it was. It was a brand new stat, so everyone thought PvP power was just tier one. Everyone just
Yeah,
put
yeah.
PvP power in every single slot. But
And I just like I remember talking with Nadagas and Reckful, and they told me about this resilience, and I was like, okay, this is insane. I didn't tell anyone about it. And our team had two sets of gear. Like during the actual games, we'd switch into our resil gear, so no one could ever inspect us, and then outside of the games, we put it back in the intellect, so no one could ever know. Mm. We use that, and that was just a gearing example. There's other examples of that too. Like the Koreans one year totally like exploited. There was a glyph. I think it was a glyph of
mutilate.
backstab.
Oh, backstab. Yeah.
It might have been backstab or mutilate or something like that. But it was the year when I don't know if you guys remember the Orange Marmalade 2v1. I think it was in Germany. Was it an IEM? Was the IEM before the year you won? I think.
I'm not sure. I didn't. I wasn't playing back
I think it
then.
was the IM before the year you won, and there was two Korean teams that made it to the top two, and they had this glyph. I don't know what the glyph of backstab did, but it was bugged, and it just gave you 15% more damage. So the Korean rogues just did 15% more damage outright from this bugged glyph, and they didn't tell anyone,
Yeah.
and they just destroyed everyone because of it.
I think what it was it made backstab do 20% more damage, but it was bugged for mutilate, so it worked for both. So obviously
Oh, okay.
you didn't use it for assassination because you didn't use backstab, but it worked accidentally. I feel like there was definitely more stuff like that at some point, but I probably can't think of it right now. But it was it was pretty funny. I heard about that a long time ago.
Yeah. Good old days.
I guess getting on topic a little bit here. So we talked about a little bit about the summit that you guys had. It was not a PvP summit if you guys weren't here. Just some ideas and stuff. Um, talked maybe about like a solo queue system, stuff like that. I think it would be really difficult to implement. Like one of the things I actually like about CS is I could go in, I could have no friends online. I could press Q, and I'm in a rated match. But how do you get that to work in WoW? You know what I mean? Because comps are important.
I don't know.
You need healers and stuff. It just, yeah, it definitely feels like a really difficult thing to get working and running. But it almost feels like at this point it's necessary. Don't you think so?
Yeah, I don't know how they could do it. To be honest with you, it just seems so hard. It feels like it'd be a really random, like what comps you end up getting. Like if you're a mage and you randomly queue with like a hunter, like just comps that traditionally wouldn't
Yep.
work at all. And it just feels like you're kind of screwed in that sense. Plus, like communication is so important in WoW. But I definitely on the other side of that, like I've queued Skypeless 3v3 games, and it's been really fun. Like when you're playing with someone that knows what they're doing, or Skypeless 2v2 games. And I remember I played with Nesper a couple days ago, and basically everything I wanted him to do, he was doing. He
Mm.
just knew like the steps that had to be taken to win the game, and he did it. And we didn't talk, but we still managed to like get the kills and do nice setups and stuff like that. So I think it's definitely possible. It's just hard. I don't know how they would do it.
It sounds like it'd be pretty tricky. Obviously, each team would need a healer, and then it could be maybe set up to, you know, like Hunter and Mage couldn't pair together, for example, because it wouldn't be an eligible composition. But even if you somehow get paired up with a Rogue Mage, and you can't coordinate your CC, you could be in a little bit of trouble. But even then, like I still feel like it would be fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Maybe it shouldn't be for titles and stuff, but I feel like there should be some sort of incentives because right now skirmishes, it there's honor, there's a little box, you'll maybe get gold or something. The incentives aren't great, so I feel like it does need to be like a rank system, but maybe it should be a separate ladder than the actual 3v3 ladder, something like that, where maybe
yeah.
you could get solo queue titles or something like that. But I feel like it would be a lot of fun. Um, it's really sad for me when I log on. Like today, I had no friends
I
online
know.
for threes and stuff, and if I had that solo queue button, I just hit it, maybe get a couple games or something. They
But
added
that
the Blizz voice, which is great. They could implement that automatically.
Well, that's what's so frustrating as a WoW like streamer. Any other game you stream, It's like, oh, Counter Strike, Q. Oh, a game. Oh, Overwatch, like Q ranked. Oh, in a game.
Hmm.
Like any game has a solo queue system. WoW isn't like a lot of those games that do have the solo queue system. To be fair, are like that's all. That's what the game is. Like the
Right.
game is a PvP game. You queue up and you play. WoW is kind of weird because such a large percentage of the game isn't like directly, doing PvP and like having that solo queue system. So it's kind of strange, but I 100% agree with you. It would be super helpful, especially just for people wanting to get into it. Maybe it doesn't have to be the most serious thing. Maybe it should be serious. I don't know, but
What I think something that's nice is, you know, it's hard for people to find partners in today's day and age. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's basically like link achieve, link statistics, or not invite. Having something where you could break that barrier where you get grouped with someone regardless, maybe like a 100 point gap or something. So maybe you're 2K and or maybe you're 2100, you don't have that 2200 achievement, no one will invite you, maybe you get grouped up with them anyway. Give yourself an opportunity to kind of prove yourself even without it. So,
yeah, that'd be really cool. Like people that are like 1500 to 1600, or
hmm
1500 to 1599 get grouped together and they're trying to get 1600.
right.
And then once you've done that, it's just 1600 to
Hmm
1699 and kind of similar to how like Overwatch is. You always have like these. That's what I was talking about a little bit earlier, where you always have these sort of like micro goals that you're working towards. I mean, sure, at the end of the season, it's really cool to like get your big prestigious title, like getting Gladiator or Duelist or whatever title is good for you. But during mid-season, there's just nothing. You don't care. You're just like, okay, I get a title at the end of the season, but it's not. It doesn't feel like I don't get those same like endorphins. Like when I'm queuing Overwatch and I'm like trying to push to get masters. They're constantly going from like 3400 or 3300 to almost 3500. I'm almost there. I get so excited when I'm close and I get so happy, and when I don't hit it or I start tanking, I get so sad. But that is what like keeps me playing, having like this little goal that I set for myself, and this little push that I can do that isn't necessarily end of season rewards, but it's just like a fun thing to do and a good way to push yourself and improve.
Yeah, definitely. Um, I guess talking, kind of jumping topics here, going back into the NAGCD, you know, I can't even really think of 8 teams that I think are going to sign up. What teams do you have off the top of your head? There's a lot of top players that are still playing, but with the 4-man roster, who's going to pair up together, and what comp
I
do you think is going to take it, or what team do you think is going to be like that powerhouse team? I'm kind of curious.
well, I actually went and I looked. You go to the signups on the website and see the teams that are already signed up. So some of the I can tell you some of the teams that I know for sure have signed up, and they look pretty scary. I think
Let's
there's
hear
like
it.
10 teams signed up so far, but one of the big ones, Volkasar, May, Teleron, and Vices.
Is that Pharaoh
So
Mage?
I do you know what all the classes that Vices plays?
I don't even know who Vices is. I'm gonna be
Okay.
honest with you.
Well, I know for sure the Volkswagen, Teleron, and May, they play that Arcane, Windwalker,
Okay.
Druid, and they're really, really strong at that. So they have that comp available to them. With Vices, I don't really know exactly all the things that he can run, but that definitely seems like a scary team.
Hmm
SSDS actually signed up with Avenge, Supa, and Maim. So Supa T is going to be playing a Wrestler Druid. More than likely, they have the Arms Warrior with Maim, Avenge playing the Rep Paladin. SSDS can play Ellie Shaman. He can play Hunter. So they also have a lot of compositions available to them. Apparently, Vices plays Warrior mostly, so they have
Okay.
the Warrior
Warrior
Mage
Mage.
Druid.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely good.
Both
Uh,
those comps seem good. Like they're going to be able to play
SSDs probably has Turbo.
Turbo.
Yeah, that's gonna
Yeah,
be that's
Turbo.
gonna be a pretty good team. Yeah, for sure.
Then another one, Chun Li, Valito,
Uh,
Novos, and I believe
Thugonomics, right?
yeah, the last person, yeah, he signed up as a different name, but I'm pretty sure it's Thugonomics. So
Is it Seaman Demon or whatever his Demon Hunter's
yes,
name is?
yes,
That's Thugonomics for you guys. Yeah, that's definitely they've been doing really well this expansion together. I think their main comp is probably the Destro Windwalker, but they could probably play like Demon Hunter Windwalker would be like Resto Shaman Nightmare. That's a team I could see going pretty damn far. I think they actually won the last one. We were talking about that a little bit earlier. Um,
yeah. Um, what else was I going to say? Yeah, it's been interesting to kind of see Novos transition from traditionally playing like Ellie Shaman. Sometimes he played Mage, but now he's just like full time healer. I guess like him and Thugonomics decided that they wanted to get like super serious, and they've always kind of had issues with getting a consistent healer.
I
So
think he's
Novus is like,
actually
oh,
played healer in the past quite a bit. Wasn't
yeah,
he a Resto Shaman in that Cataclysm tournament, the first regionals I ever went to? He played with Thugonomics and someone else. I feel like he was the healer in that tournament. Do you remember that? You
I
played with Valrath and Sodes?
Oh God, I don't want to talk about that tournament. I don't know.
Moving
I
on.
blocked that tournament out of my mind. I don't
That's
know
my bad.
anything
That's
that's
my bad.
happened.
Hands up. Don't shoot.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It's okay. I feel you, man. I learned a lot of valuable lessons from that tournament. If you guys kind of want some context, me, Valrath, and Soda, we played a comp called Liberty Cleave. It was Death Knight, Frost Death Knight, Frost Mage, Priest, and it was really, really strong. There was online qualifiers or the tournament realm, and throughout the entire tournament realm, we did super well. We were really consistent. And then the week before the tournament round ended, where you could no longer make new teams, they made it so our comp just sucked. They just gutted Frost Death Knights into being like the worst class in the game, and we were just stuck with this shit comp. And we went to regionals and lost every single game, and it was a really sad time. And it was from that moment forward, I was like, I'm only playing the most overpowered comps. Like I will never. It was that tournament actually. The year Soda and Talbadar and Chanimals won BlizzCon. I was playing with Soda and Talbadar, and I was like, "You guys just ditch me." Like we were doing okay. Like we might have been able to qualify maybe, but I was like, "Yeah, just ditch me. Just play like the most overpowered comp because you guys will probably end up winning, and you probably won't win with me. Like there's no reason for us to play." Like at that point, it's just like I don't care about like feelings or anything. That tournament just made me like super. Just like it's a lot of money. Winning BlizzCon is freaking awesome. It's a lot of money, and there's no reason not to put your best foot forward and like try really hard. So that tournament was important for my overall mindset in PvP.
Did you win the one before that or after that? I don't remember. It was before, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
2012.
Okay. So you already won at that point. So you're like,
Yeah,
eh,
I was
old
like, yeah,
news.
yeah, exactly. I
Old
need to win
news.
again. You know? But
Two-time back to
yeah,
back.
so that team obviously going to be really strong. And then another one that's signed up so far, and this is a comp that a lot of people are talking about. It's that Boomkin Shadow Priest Shaman comp. That's really strong. Asper, WizK, and Absterge.
Oh,
So
they don't have a fourth? That's actually so surprising to me.
yeah, I think they might be able to add one later on, but I'm not
Yeah,
exactly sure. But that's the team that signed up so far, so that'll be really good. Another team you
absolutely,
kind
yeah.
of mentioned was Mez, Colo, and Maldiva.
Uh-huh. They've been playing quite a bit, and they're pretty good at the comp.
Yeah, so they have the Demon Hunter, and a Holy Decay Shaman, and Mez can also play. Demon Hunter, Demonology Shaman, and then Mez can also play the Unholy Decay. So that's another comp that's really strong, has a lot of damage. And then the last kind of like scary team. There's a few other teams, but I didn't really recognize them. The last one, Big Moran's going to be signing up. He's been playing a lot of like Arcane, Windwalker, Resto Druid, and they've been doing a pretty good job. So that's another team that could do pretty well.
Yeah, that comp's actually pretty bursty. Huh. So there's two Arcane Windwalker Resto Druids. We got some Demo Lock, Demon Hunter stuff. It sounds like there's a pretty wide variety of comps, right? We got Boomkin Shadow Priest.
The only
Yeah,
comp we don't have is like
Rogue
Rogue
Mage, right?
Mage. Yeah, there's no Rogue
I
Mage.
think
Aside from
Sam Roasties and I think Rub Cub are going to be signing up. I don't know with what fourth, but that should definitely be a pretty good team. I don't know if you could just win it with Rogue Mage, but I would definitely like to see them enter the tournament. They're still really, really good at Rogue Mage. Cub's been practicing the Druid a little bit. I wonder if they're going to have a fourth. I would actually like to see probably every team have a fourth in this tournament. You know, just to add a little bit of variety. If it's going to be a three-man tournament, that's fine with three people. But if it's going to be a four-man tournament, I think I'd rather see the fourth player just to add that extra person. Stack those teams up as much as you can. Um,
it also keeps the other teams guessing, even if you don't use
right,
a fourth. Like the
right.
other teams, like, oh, they have that. Like, we
Could
need to
mess up their
prepare.
blind pick and stuff like that. Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. So that's going to be a pretty exciting tournament. That's actually next weekend, right? Friday, Saturday, Sunday, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. On Friday, I think I don't know for sure, but I think they'll end up doing like one of those like pre-qualifiers. So
Or
teams
one
that
team, yeah.
don't get into the main seed right away have a chance to like win and enter their way in.
So it's almost like a second tournament, and then winner gets to the tournament, right?
yeah,
Yeah, that's pretty. I think that's a good way for like newer players or players that aren't like as established. Maybe they don't get auto invited to the tournament to kind of prove themselves to get into that tournament. And even if you don't make the tournament, maybe if you do a good enough job, you get recognized, and maybe you could start getting invited to other tournaments. So I think that's pretty cool. Kind of extends the weekend a little bit for WoW esports, which is pretty exciting. Um, all in all, I
Oh,
think. Go ahead.
no, go ahead. Finish your thought. Sorry.
I was gonna say I'm happy to have GCD come back to North America. Like I already feel like with the patch, with GCD right around the corner, the ladder is much more active, and it feels like players have something to work for again. So In this like downtime, after BlizzCon, it always feels like WoW's just in a slump where there's just no tournaments in sight. It just feels like not many people are interested in playing, not many people are interested in watching. So it's good to have this breath of fresh air come in with like a tournament right around the corner for players to have incentive to actually kind of get back in shape.
Yep, absolutely. I was going to ask you too. You had an opportunity. I don't think you've ever done. I think you've done some practicing and stuff like that. Like you auditioned, but like, how did you like casting? Did you have fun casting?
I
What
liked
do
it
you
a
think?
lot. I liked it a lot. I was worried that maybe this is gonna sound really like sad, but I was worried that maybe I wouldn't be able to hype it up enough like as much as I wanted to. But casting the games actually just makes it so much more intense. You just feel like you're so invested. You know what I mean? It's just a lot of fun. I thought maybe I would do like my little whisper excite thing, like, oh, and he's going for a full sheep, but you actually just get so into
You
it.
just like yell.
Yeah, you're just yelling, and it's just awesome. I got a lot of good positive feedback, a lot of good constructive criticism. I think some people were saying I was maybe talking a little bit too fast outside of the matches because like the matches were so intense. So I come out of the game and be like, "This team did such a good job. They need to do this better." So I was just like, I was just NASCARing it, but it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. Super excited to get farm this year and just retire and be a caster. So
I look
it's
forward to being with you, bro. I'll be
the
waiting.
washed up crew. Three amigos. We're all gonna be casting one day. Never forget. But it was a very good time. I liked it a lot. Definitely can see myself doing it more often. I enjoyed it.
I need to go. Yeah, I want to go definitely check out the VODs and watch you because I do think that's really cool. And it's nice to see the games from like a different perspective and kind
Yeah.
of take a different role in the community. That's why I like it.
Yeah.
Because like I don't know, like competing is really fun and it's really exciting and it's awesome. But
Mhm.
I just at some point I'm like, do I really just want to keep competing forever and ever and ever? So like, getting better at casting. I definitely think I have a lot of work to do. I've done it a lot, and I feel like I could still get way better than I am. Like I have definitely a lot more I could get better at. So that's kind of fun for me, is like still working and improving on that aspect.
Definitely. Yeah, and I definitely think I can improve. So it should be fun. What you guys got to remember is we've been doing this for a long time. Ven even longer. How many what age were you at your first tournament? Like how many years have you been doing this? Because I'm going on 7, and you've been doing it longer than me.
Yeah, the first tournament I ever signed up was in 2007, I think. So 2007. It's a
Wow.
really long time ago. So been doing tournaments for a long time. The first LAN tournament I went to was like early 2008, and then I did all 2008, 2009, 10, 11, 12. So long time.
Mhm.
So eventually it's like, do I really want to just keep doing this, or should I maybe get some skills elsewhere besides
Yeah.
WoW PvP? But I still love the game. That's the thing. I love the game. I love the community. It's done so much for me, and if I can give back and like keep doing what I love and being a part of the scene, like that's what keeps me going.
Yeah, it's definitely it's nice being a part of the tournament, but I won't forget when we're at like regionals or BlizzCon in Columbus. I forget which one, and you're like, it's so nice just watching you guys stress out about what you're about to face and sitting back and just know that I'm just gonna be commentating and no cares in the world. We're just like, man, what comp should we run tomorrow? Like, what are they gonna play? And Ven just
It's like,
walks
aren't
over and just
eating,
kind of
you aren't
points and
sleeping.
laughs. Yeah, it's just tournaments are really stressful. They're really stressful. Maybe not for everyone, but we take them pretty seriously, and we're trying to always think about what they're gonna do, what we're gonna do, and how you're gonna perform, and all this pressure on you. And as a caster, it's just kind of like you just sit back and you just kind of laugh.
You still
Especially
worry
when
about,
you've
oh
been
man, am I gonna like
Yeah.
accidentally swear or like blah 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 blah? But it's worked out so far. I mean, sometimes I think the famous mess up I've done was like kidney shitty. I think I like said that at BlizzCon for instead of kidney shot, I said kidney shitty, and it's kind of embarrassing. But you just kind of pretend it didn't happen and
Yeah.
keep going.
Yeah.
Definitely don't check Twitch chat after. If there's any advice, you asked me first. You're like, "Oh, do you have any advice?" And I was one of the things I should have told you is don't read Twitch chat ever. Just have it closed. Don't look at it.
I actually had a little bit of Twitch chat open, and there was some not so kind things about me, but
It happens. And it's fun.
I got a good laugh out of them. So, oh man. Anything else you want to talk about with the NAGCD, or should we kind of move on to? Is this an esports announcement? I heard. I actually don't know where the source came from. I don't even know if it's posted anywhere. But
I think I don't know. I think Blizzard announced that there's going to be
a WoW esport announcement. Is that exactly what it is?
I guess.
Can
I
anyone
think.
find the source? Because from what we heard, there's a big WoW esport announcement happening in 2 weeks or something. Is that what it is?
I think it's next week.
Oh, it could be maybe even next week. So we're gonna kind of like speculate what this could be. first off, I don't think there's ever been a big esport announcement for WoW before, has there? Not from what I can remember, right?
Not that I can ever remember. No.
Um, so I mean, it's all speculation, but what do you think that this can mean?
I mean, if I had to guess, I mean, okay, so if we look at previous years, would you say that last year was the best it's been for WoW tournaments in terms of like just online tournaments in general, just the amount of tournaments, and like the way you qualified for BlizzCon and stuff like that? Like, I feel like it
Um,
was really well done.
I think last year was very strong for WoW esports. There was a lot of online tournaments. I think the qualifiers, for the first time in a long time, went very smoothly. There was prize pool in the qualifiers. There was a big prize pool at the regionals, and I think in terms of viewership and everything, I feel like it was great. So yeah, I mean, I think it was really good. I don't know if it was like bigger than Wrath, but it's like a different audience now. You know, there's more competition with WoW. Um, but I think last year was great in terms of WoW esports.
Yeah, so do I. And it seems like it's been getting better. People always joke like, "Oh, WoW's dead, WoW's dead, WoW's dead," but it really has. It feels like it's been getting better and better. Like the tournament scene has been getting stronger every single year, which is weird because the game's just so old and it's getting older and older. But I mean, it seems like there's just this core audience that really, truly loves the game, and it's awesome. And if this announcement is anything to do with more tournaments, like that would just be super cool because I know that's a big thing. A lot of the pro players want, the people that play this game for a living, and they're always trying to push the ladder, and they want to be competing at regionals and at BlizzCon, and they just want stuff to do during the year, to sort of legitimize what they're doing. Like if there's more tournaments throughout the year, I think that is the best announcement that there could possibly be. But I don't
Yeah,
know.
definitely. I mean, when you hear big WoW esport announcement, to me, all it says is there's got to be more tournaments. You know what I mean? More tournaments, potentially bigger prize pool. I know last year I made this comment a bunch of times. I was really disappointed that when you look at just the Blizzard tournaments, Hearthstone at 1 million, Heroes at 1 million, StarCraft at 500,000, and then WoW at 250K. Like that to me, it almost just feels like we don't feel as important as WoW players. You know what I mean? So. Um, I would just like to see the prize pool be at least what it is at StarCraft. So if that was doubled up to 500,000, I feel like that would be a big WoW esports announcement. Think about it, the BlizzCon champions. Imagine if they got 2 times their winnings. You know what I mean? It feels so crazy playing in a tournament worth that much money. Imagine 2 times that. Um, but
Yeah,
yeah,
it would allow players to dedicate even more time and to get
right.
better. And not only that, but it brings in external sponsors too. If there's like consistent tournaments throughout the year and the tournaments are bigger and more prize money, like
hmm
more esports organizations want to get involved in it, which I think is really cool. And that's, you know. But anyways, I actually found Toxic linked me this. It says Thursday, March 9th. Is that next week? Yeah, so
Yes.
next week, Thursday, they're going to sit down with Brian Halinka for developer QA, so I guess like a PvP QA. And then it says if you're an esports fan, you'll also want to tune in to hear from WoW esports team manager Jeremy McIntyre, who will be sharing a little more on the WoW Arena World Championship for 2017. So it
Oh
sounds like
wow.
for sure there's going to be tournaments in 2017, and I don't know. Like you said, they've never done an announcement like this before, so that's pretty exciting.
Not only that, it also feels like this is so early in the year to get like information on tournaments in the year. It always kind of feels like, you know, we're halfway through the year and it feels like we're still so left in the dark. So even if it's just some information, maybe shedding some light on, you know, how qualifiers are going to be done, stuff like that, information is fantastic for us because it really feels like as WoW players, sometimes we just don't know what's going to happen. We don't know when the tournament realm is going to be or the qualifiers are going to be, and having that information earlier is just fantastic from my point of view. So. Definitely gonna have to watch that. Do you know what time that's gonna be at?
Yeah,
Did you see that?
it says 11 a.m. PST.
Okay, so that's 2, right? 2 Eastern.
Yeah, yeah, 2 Eastern and 7 p.m. GMT for you Europeans.
All right, and that's gonna be streamed probably just like on the Warcraft channel and Twitch. So if you guys are
Twitch.tv
interested
slash
in that,
Warcraft. Yep.
yeah, twitch.tv/Warcraft. If you guys are interested in that, I know I am. I definitely want to see that. I'm definitely gonna be tuned in. So pretty excited about that. Other than that, I mean, what else can we really speculate? You know, maybe they'll talk maybe a little about format. I think it's been up in the air whether they want to go back to 3-man or if they want to stay 4-man. Maybe they'll actually change the format completely. Maybe No more, counter comp on counter picks. So I think there's a lot that could be announced in this. So it's kind of hard to maybe nail everything or get an idea for everything, but it would be pretty interesting to see what they have to say, and I'm actually really excited.
I want to know what your thoughts are as like a competitor and someone who's played in like the 4-man rosters and 3-man rosters. Like, which one do you like more personally?
I feel like I want to say 3-man roster, but in the same sense, I never played in this expansion with just the 3-man roster. Obviously going back in the day where it's like, okay, this comp plays Shadow Play, this comp plays Rogue Mage, this comp plays DKLS, and you know exactly what they're playing, and you feel like you can go into the tournament with your 3 comps and you could beat anyone just if you outplay them. I like that format the best. And Legion, it may just not be like that. You could have a 3-man roster and it's like, man, they play this, I play that. We don't have anything else. We just might not be able to win. It definitely feels like it's a little more rock, paper, scissory. There's not maybe as many outplay mechanics, but there is more multi-classing. So I don't know. I feel like my opinion isn't, I wouldn't say not right because his opinion obviously can't be right, but I feel like my opinion isn't fully developed just based off the fact that I haven't played in a strong 3-man format in the current expansion. So I want to say 3-man roster, but with where we're at, I actually think I prefer the 4. And I'm also a little biased because I really like my team. There was a lot of talk internally, like what's going to happen with our team if it's a 3-man roster. Do we cut Snuts? Do we cut Bean? Do we cut Smexon? Do I get cut? Like, I don't even know what's going to happen anymore. So
It'd probably be you.
Yeah, it would probably be me. And that's why I'm actually practicing casting. So maybe you guys can read between the lines there. So, but yeah.
That's hilarious. One of the things I really liked about Legion, like watching the regional tournaments or watching BlizzCon, was the class diversity. It seemed like we got to see more classes than ever, and I kind of feel like that was a direct result of not only the game being a little bit newer, but also that 4-man roster. And I want to say also there's something to be said because the team that actually won BlizzCon wasn't a 4-man roster; they were a 3-man roster.
I had no idea.
You had no idea?
I had no idea. I thought there was a 4th player. They switched comps so many times.
I know. They played so many different comps. It's like, how are they not? How are they not playing a 4-man roster? I know.
It's pretty crazy. They were very dedicated. It's I feel like regionals and BlizzCon was really successful this year. One of the things I wanted to ask you is, it feels like a lot of tournaments in today's day and age. Like I'll tune into a Counter-Strike, and you have like chance to get drops from like watching the tournament and stuff like that. Do you think like that incentive just to tune in is important? Because I feel like we talked about this a little bit earlier, that you got like a title or a pet or something for just tuning into the regional tournament. Do you feel like little incentives like that to have people tune into these big tournaments is actually really important to grow esports? It's such minimal effort, it feels like, from Blizzard. Do you feel like it's a good sort I'm looking for? Do you feel like it's a good investment for them to continue doing stuff like that?
Yeah, I do. And I think another reason why it's so good is because it incentivizes people that might not be super interested. Like, say someone who's never PvP'd before, they're like, oh, that's a cool title. Like, I need to get that. And I got to catch them all,
Mm-hmm.
They got to get every title in the game. So the only way they can do that is to tune into WoW Esports. And I feel like there has to be some people that tuned in or like, oh, this is actually pretty cool. Like, this is awesome. Like, maybe I'm going to go try and do some battlegrounds or some duels or some skirms or some arena. Like, hey, guys, like, let's queue up. Well, we just watched Cdew and Snuts. They owned. Like, let's play the comps they were playing. So I think it gets people that maybe aren't into the scene, which is nothing but good for WoW Esports and for PvP.
I agree. I feel like it definitely reaches a newer audience that isn't necessarily familiar with it. Another thing that I feel like, I don't know if you agree with this in terms of WoW PvP, this year at regionals and BlizzCon, I was actually shocked with how little players and teams were interviewed. It didn't feel like there was any, and I feel like having that background story just so players could be familiarized with or viewers could be more familiar with the players before the games even start would actually help out a ton. A lot of teams, people may not even know who they were, which means maybe they're not cheering for them, maybe they don't know what to expect out of them. But I was actually really surprised with how little we were interviewed. I would be interviewed after every game, sure, but I feel like there should have been team interviews. I feel like there could have been background interviews, even if they weren't broadcasted live. If you go to the WoW website and you see a team and you can click each player's individually and see their story, kind of like how we did last week with NG Red or 2 weeks ago with NG Red, I feel like a lot of players would really appreciate that, and I think it would actually kind of help grow WoW esports in general just by expanding the fan base. So how do you feel about that?
I think you're absolutely right. I think we've seen consistently over the years the players that are the most exposed are the are the teams that people cheer for,
Hmm.
right? So like some of the more known players like maybe your team, like Method, big names like Smexon, Cdew, Nuts, Bean, or like Temple Storm, Jamili, Peekaboo, just these big name players. Those are people who they stream all the time. People know who they are. They know about them. Maybe they've connected to them with some like personal story. Like everyone knows about you and your dogs, and they want you to win so you can give your dog some really good treats, or just little things like that. I mean, that's obviously a ridiculous example,
Right.
but they connect to the player more than just like, oh, that's a mage. That's just the guy who plays a mage. Like they actually know the person. I think that's one of the things that really what interested me about this podcast is when you kind of talk to me about like, hey, like we should get to know these players better. I'm like, you're damn right, we should,
Hmm.
because if the scene is going to grow and people are going to sort of fall in love with it, it's going to be because they know the people that are competing and they can like pick a player and pick a team that sort of relates to them and they can get behind and cheer for. And I think it just makes watching a lot better. And it's one of those things where like if you watch like a hockey game, people that have no freaking idea anything about any sport, like they watch hockey, they don't know what's going on. They don't even know what icing is or what a face-off is, but they watch and it's just because, oh, that's my team, that's my city's team. Like go them and fuck the other
Right.
team for whatever reason. That's the way it is. That's just how it is. So
Yeah.
people that don't necessarily know the most about WoW PvP and don't know exactly what's going on, they can still like get super excited and like get behind those players and those teams.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I know from, just my own personal experience, when I'm cheering for teams in Hearthstone or Counter-Strike or players, it's only the people that I've seen on stream. I won't watch a Counter-Strike match if I don't know the team name, if I don't know the players. I won't watch a Hearthstone if I've never watched a stream before, you know what I mean? So it's definitely like you got to get exposure for some of those people out there that maybe don't stream, can't stream, they have a full-time job, they don't have good enough internet. You definitely got to get some of that that background story out there, so they can reach a much wider audience. I think Blizzard definitely needs to put time into kind of building up their top players and maybe even doing a better job advertising for the tournaments. Put it on the WoW website, put it on the Battle.net launcher. Before you click play, check out this tournament. I think it could definitely help. That little incentive to tune in. I think the final thing I wanted to talk about, I'm kind of drawing a blank here, is how do you feel WoW is in terms of spectator? I know a lot of people say WoW will never be a big esport because people don't know what's going on, but I've never played League, and I don't know what's going on at all in that game. You know what I mean? I feel like if you play WoW, you have a general idea what's going on, but I don't think WoW can't be big because it's too difficult to understand. Just because if you don't watch other games, how many people in here could go into a League stream and be like, I know exactly what's going on, even though they never played the game, or other games like that. Hearthstone, like that guy played a card and that guy died. I never played this game, but I guess that just happened. I don't really feel like WoW is too difficult to watch. I actually feel like it might be fairly simple, just based off health bars and mana bars and stuff like that, if you have a general understanding. So,
Yeah.
what do you think?
So I've always liked playing 3v3. To sort of expand on that point, I always thought I talked about this way back in the day in like my State of the Union. How I thought like 6v6. I think 10v10 is way too hard to spectate, but I think like some sort of objective-based PvP in terms of just watchability is a lot better. So like, oh, this guy's running the flag and he needs to get that there. Like, okay, I understand that. That's cool. Or they need to stay in this zone, and if they're not in that zone, they're not winning. Like little objectives like that, although they aren't super complicated, it's easy for someone to understand. WoW esports, for someone who isn't really super familiar with it, like you said, when you watch something like League or you watch something like Hearthstone, you don't know like all the little details or what's important if you're just like the average player or whatever. And it's kind of the same in WoW. I know a lot of people just stare at the health bars. They're like, "Oh, that guy's low. Oh, yeah!" Like, yeah, I remember one of my managers back in the day when I was back on Complexity. I think it was Jason Lake. I don't want to like call him out or anything like that, but like he was watching behind us, and we killed a pet, and he thought we won the game. Like we literally killed like a scorpion or something like that, and he was just like so stoked. Might have not been him, but it was one of our managers. Like he thought we had won the game, and he got super excited and super hyped and was yelling because we like killed a scorpion or something like that. So I thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, I don't know. I think WoW definitely still has a lot of potential. It's a great game, and I just like even the games at BlizzCon last year. You were there, you were playing. Like,
Mm.
did you see how big the crowd was? Like, did you ever
It
get
was
up and look?
huge.
It
It
was
was
insane. It was
huge.
as big as any game at BlizzCon. So
And to think that it was also competing with the other games in the, there was a Hearthstone tournament going on at the same time. There's a StarCraft tournament going on at the same time. I think there maybe might have been an Overwatch thing. And to think like all those tournaments are going on at the same time, what would WoW's viewership, what could it have been if it wasn't competing with the other Blizzard games? Because I would say for, a fair amount of people, they probably play all the games from Blizzard. You know what I mean? If you play WoW, you probably play Hearthstone here and there. You probably play StarCraft here and there. So, it's definitely depriving WoW of viewers if it was just like a solo tournament in that situation, which means if there was more, world tournaments like throughout the year that wasn't competing with other Blizzard tournaments, it could have, probably broken 100,000 views, which probably hasn't happened in a really long time for a while. So I definitely think it did pretty well.
another thing that I think made that BlizzCon so exciting in those regional tournaments in Legion is the game was just it was just all over the place. Like people were just dying left and right. And I think if the game gets to a point where games take too long and damage isn't high enough and it goes into dampening consistently, like to me, that's when it starts getting resident sleeper. Like, oh, like the meta's kind of like established, and you just know like, oh man, this RMD versus this turbo, it's gonna go till 50% dampening. Like
Mm,
every single game. Like, can't wait for this best of seven. It's just like it's not
yeah,
that exciting
I
when it's
agree.
like new comps and new classes are good and like people are playing different things and people are dying like in the first like couple minutes. Although as like a professional player, sometimes it's ridiculous. In terms of watchability, it's a lot more fun and a lot more exciting.
Yeah. I feel like the pace of the game right now is fairly quick. It always feels like there's stuff happening. Some games go to dampening. I think that's inevitable. One team may just play, incredibly defensive. Actually, in the EU GCD, it was I believe, Windwalker DK Holy Pally versus a Boomkin Destro Resto Shaman, and the Windwalker DK literally sat behind the pillar, and if someone pushed in, they would grip him behind the pillar, and if that person ran away, they would stay behind the pillar. And
Yeah,
eventually, the other team would get so fed up where they would push in and they would eventually just lose. And the other
yeah,
team just played to not lose the game. You know what I mean? They knew they would eventually win if they just held the defensive positioning, and you can't really blame them for that. But from a spectator standpoint, that's not what you want to see. You want to see them kind of
no.
go head to head, and it's tough. I don't think there's ever going to be any way to balance that.
Yeah, it's not like in Counter Strike, the one team's like defending B and the other one's sitting in B tunnels, and like you're both just
Mm,
like sitting there the entire game throwing flashbangs at each other, and like nothing's happening, no one's dying. Like,
right.
and it's goofy. So it's definitely it's an issue. But yeah, I just think the fast paced, like quicker gameplay is just more fun and more exciting to watch.
Yeah.
So I kind of
Yeah.
like the way, like the direction I was going, because there's not that many games do go into dampening, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. I feel
At
like
least
the
the ones
pace
I
is pretty
played.
good. Yeah, I think so. I
Yeah.
agree. I mean, Do you have anything else you want to kind of talk about? I feel like we basically went
No,
over everything.
I think this is good.
Yeah.
We got everything we wanted to do. So yeah, like we kind of mentioned at the beginning, it was kind of just like, are we doing this week? Yeah, I think CD messaged me yesterday, like, should we do it? And I'm like, I guess. Like, we have lots of stuff to talk about next week. Like, there's a PvP announcement and like
The
GCD's
tournament. We
happening.
probably shouldn't
And
even
then,
do it next week. Maybe wait till
maybe
after the
after.
tournament. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I guess. But yeah, I think this worked out good. It was
Yeah.
fun. I had fun chatting with you, buddy.
Me too, man. Well, I mean, thank you once again for, I guess, hosting with me. I hope all you guys enjoyed. Any last words? Any shout outs for you, Elliot?
Um, shout outs? No, not really. Just shout out to all you homies. I don't
Yeah.
really have any big shout outs, not just the regular ones, I guess. Yeah, thank you guys for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you guys enjoyed. Shout out to
Everyone.
you for
Yeah.
chatting with me.
Sounds good,
What
man.
about you, buddy? You got any big shout outs?
Just thank you everyone who's tuned in and trying to keep WoW esports alive. I think we got a couple devs in here. A couple people who host GCD and stuff. A lot of people that put a lot of time in to kind of keeping this dream alive. We're all in here because we have the same goal. We want WoW esports to be big. We definitely want to help grow it, and we're just two people that enjoy kind of talking each other's ears off. So hopefully you guys didn't get too bored with us. I feel like we always have a mouthful. We always Oh God, that's gonna be memed. Probably shouldn't have said that.
We always got
We
a
always have
mouthful
something
when
to
we're
say.
together.
So, all right. I think that's
Uh,
gonna go ahead and end this. So,
Oh, yeah. Should we kind of? I mean, I know we kind of talked about it a little, and we need to talk about it more. But just like the kind of stuff we want to do, like last week we had some teams in, and we got to interview and like meet some new players. Like that's definitely something I think we want to keep doing, especially like as this
Absolutely, yeah.
tournament scene goes on and like teams are more established. Like it'll be really cool to get to know all these different teams. But I think it'd be really cool just to do this too and just shoot the shit with like random people in the community. That's
Definitely, definitely. We'll have a much more prepared podcast in the future. This was just kind of thrown together last night. Like, hey, should we do this? It was about as much thought as we put into it, but it turned out pretty good. So I appreciate everyone tuning in, and yeah, thank you for coming once again, Ben.
yeah. Should we play threes tonight, bro? Like you gonna be around?
It's date night for me tonight. I'll probably be back
Ah,
on in about
okay,
5 hours
okay.
or so, but yeah.
Nice, nice, nice. No,
Yep.
enjoy. Have fun.
All right, man. Have a good night.
All right, peace out, dude.
Peace.